Okay. Okay. Fabulous. So welcome to another installment of Exploring Consciousness. And I'm here joined by a whole team of consciousness explorers. And we're just going to see what comes up. We're just going to talk about consciousness, whatever that means. It obviously includes everything, judges nothing. So we are open to the public here, so we might have people pop on, and then there's an opportunity to ask questions, raise concerns, and basically just have a chat and see how we can contribute to each other and how we can actually help each other throughout the next couple of weeks. We are planning to do this on a weekly basis, and if there are any gems that are coming out. Hi, Matt.
Oh, hi, I had to try and figure out how to work my phone.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Matt. Good. Okay, so what I want to do as well is I want to bring somebody else on who wants to, contribute something in particular. Be it now meditation, be it now anything that is obviously relevant to exploring consciousness. Coronavirus will be coming up. No doubt, but it's not necessarily just for that. It's really about chatting about opportunities, possibilities that are arising through that situation that we're finding ourselves in, and of course, if we can, support each other throughout. Period. So I've invited Laura to kick it off today to. Start off, she's going to read a part of her hero's journey that has written. It's a document where she has been putting together her experience over the last couple of years, exploring consciousness in a bit more detail. And what I want to do is I want to just maybe mute each other now. And we're just going to close your eyes for a moment there and just really drop your barriers, drop your walls, like anything you're expecting this to be, the Zoom to be, the document to be, anything wanting it to be or not to be. And just really close your eyes and just listen to Laura's words and to her voice, and see if we can use the documents afterwards, to kick it off for a conversation. Laura,
cool.
Over to you. I'm just going to mute a couple of guys here who seem to be making a bit of noise.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Really good to connect with you today. I wrote this about a year ago, I think. It's called My Journey to the Stars. I'm sure there's lots of bits of it that you will relate to. So, I am the human. I am the human because I know love. I was born a sacred feminine and masculine. Through the womb of a sacred feminine on this sacred earth. I grew from my heart and I can learn to speak its language. As the fetus in my mother's womb, I have my greatest connection to the divine, and I was born with that spark within, my eternal flame, and with the internal fortitude and will, and to live, to drive me forward, learning how to create my own bubble of reality. Born through the forgetting of the birth canal, but I know I have the means to access my memories in light, so I can learn how to dream my own great dream of peace. But as a human, I was born with all the knowingness within, already having the connection to all that is, was, and will be. I have the ability to learn to be the shaman of my own technology, and I am human because I can use my heart mind to connect again to the fetus and call forth my ancient future wisdom, in order that I may learn, grow, evolve, to love unconditionally, to find the sacred neutrality that is my birthright. I am human because I have the rites of passage to discover the resources that carry me through the challenges of life on earth. I am human. I live, love and learn. At times I learn through repetition, which brings illumination, which I use for self-growth, self-discovery. I am human because I know I carry the blood of my ancestors, and I feel my heart beat and know it beats for all ancestors. And when I do the work of self-healing, I heal all ancestors, past, present and future. I was born with choices and potentials of my own to carry forward the mantle of responsibility, to be the self-illuminated master. A human knows in their heart there is something more beyond the petty distractions of the global narrative and survival living. I am human when I see through the programs that run us, and I work to eliminate them from my life, so that it's my heart mind that makes my decisions and gives me my perspectives. I have the skill sets to hack this hologram and fortify my own hologram. As a human, I'm unique. I'm a catalyst for change. I know I hold infinite potential. Born with the wisdom within me of why I dream this dream. I'm human when music moves me to tears and yet can make me dance. I'm human because I can feel my heart singing, because I laugh and cry, sing and speak, run and dance, and sleep and dream. I can smell the sweet smell of hay, and when rain is coming. I feel the tugging of the winds in my hair and the warming of the sun on my skin. I breathe in the sharp freshness of the chill air on a frosty winter's day. I can smile. I am the human recognizing my heart is full of undiscovered treasures and that I'm here to make the unknown known. As a human, I have choices, the choosing of which creates yet more choice points. I have the choice to use imagination and vision, which opens me up to co-create with great spirit and great mystery. A beautiful, never-ending voyage of discovery. As a human, my prayers are prayers of thanks and poems and connections from my heart to my ancestors. I am the hero. This is when the human evolves enough to make self-aware choices to step out of mediocrity. A hero turns acquired knowledge into wisdom by action. I am the hero by becoming awake and aware that I am more than I have heard, read or studied, and having the courage to develop an unlimited point of view, to create sacred space and carve out sacred time, and to use out loud name it to claim it statements, even when the whole world seems to be yelling at you that you're being selfish. I am the hero by committing myself to a path of self-discovery and self-healing, which is not in alignment with the system of mediocrity and distraction, the system that tells you that they know best and that without it you'd be struggling. A hero knows that out-creating the system will help them reclaim their own sovereignty. A hero steps forward to do their great work, regardless of the projections put upon them by those around them, including loved ones, who are still in the hypnosis of obedience and slavery. A hero's stance is frightening to those who unquestionably conform. A hero can lose friends and family through this fear. I am the hero because I've had to fight back tears when my truth is met with scorn and ridicule. Teasing from others is a giveaway of their fear of change. When my sacred neutrality is seen as weakness and my intent questioned as a human, my heart can break. But as a hero, I know with a deep, unwavering belief that this is part of the journey I must go through. As a hero, I learn to conquer old habit patterns that are working against me, and I stop arguing for my own limitations. A hero is not a martyr. I do not sacrifice my own needs for others. I am a hero by being sovereign and working on my own development and healing, allowing others to do the same if they should choose to take up that mantle of responsibility. A hero does not tread on another's journey, but commits themselves to their own path. I am a hero because I know it's not what you think, it's what you believe, and I've chosen to believe in me. Self-trust, self-acknowledgement, self-nurture. Facing obstacles in the seen and unseen world, and taking on as a discipline the spiritual hygiene and sacred practices and ceremonies as a scheduled, heart agenda-driven need to maintaining an increasing frequency and sovereignty. and the setting of sacred boundaries. The path of a hero is not easy. You must own your self-core, own your power in a system that wants to take it from you in all kinds of overt and covert ways. I'm a hero as I make myself aware of this and have spiritual practices and postures that keep me sovereign. A hero knows the path of truth can be a lonely road, but does not operate as a hermit practitioner, for that serves no purpose for the greater good. A hero has recognized the illusory limitations set up by the self and has done the work to overcome the worry and fear, recognizing they are the product of a lack of trust in the self. Therefore, a hero has learnt self-trust, and my daily spoken prayers and meditations have become prayer dances of joy, with music that makes my tears flow. I am the champion. As a champion, I throw off all shackles in the seen and unseen world. I offer my full service in contribution to the light. I am a champion when, as a self-illuminated master, I can see through the trickery and lies of the system of domination and control. Yet I do not confront it, for I know that in that action I'm adding more of the same frequency. A champion has learnt to outcreate the system by sacred living, by revocations, claiming sovereignty, ceremonies, alchemy, and aligning with the frequencies of earth, of the natural way of living. A champion lives in the divine flow and creates sacred ways and moments, and has learnt to live from one sacred moment to the next, as a moment-to-moment sacred living on earth, living the mystical life daily, in a seamless bonded stream of self-healing self-worth, self-value and self-appreciation and unconditional love. And you cannot trigger a champion into retaliation. A champion will open their hearts because they are not afraid and pour out the endless stream of love that flows through them. Yet they are not fools. Champions have learnt the lessons of life, of self-protection from energies not coming in equal co-creation to siphon their life force, and they are prepared. They have mastered the discipline of spiritual hygiene and know it is a discipline. I am a champion, for I have seen through the deepest fear of a shaman's death, of extreme anxiety, disturbance, loss of life, hollowness and emptiness, before the separation of densities removed old selves that were there to distort and destroy or work against my I am self. This takes the courage of a champion. I am the champion when I know how to flip the frequencies and engage my precognitive workforce of iron presences, so I may be the sole arbiter of my life, out-creating the system's plans for me. As a champion, I'm engaging many of the skill sets I've learned as a synthesis of human and hero. Victories are not seen as glorification. Victories are personal achievement of being a sacred neutral observer and learning from the rites of passage that are milestones to my own personal spiritual path. And the dancing of a prayer dance for a champion is beautiful. It is in divine flow, with the heart of a warrior and the mind and body of a sacred feminine and masculine. The music carrying me to the depths of my soul in joy. I hope. I'll stop there for now, Martina, because it's quite a long one otherwise.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Hold on. Thanks, Laura. Very powerful words, isn't it? Using champion and hero and human, you know, all at the same time. So thanks for kicking it off like that and setting the tone maybe for this for this exploration here. If anyone wants to say anything, what those words brought up for them, just unmute yourself and pop in with any comments.
Well, I can talk. You know, I've heard this before. Oh, hey everyone, I'm Jeff. Nice to meet you all. I'm, you know, blessed to be able to speak to Laura and Nina and Mary on a weekly basis, and you know, more often through chat. So we have a great relationship, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you for that connection. And Laura, you know, we've talked about this before, and today listening to you read it, as Martina requested, I kind of cleaned the slate and I let go of any previous notions I had of it, and I tried to just let it flow to me naturally. And I was really struck by this. It was funny. You were talking about this human aspect of yourself and this hero aspect of yourself and this champion aspect of yourself, which are all aspects that we all ourselves have. But for me, I kept thinking about a tree. I was the whole time you're going through it, I'm just seeing the seedling, sprout from that womb and that blueprint for the life that originally inspires and motivates us to come out of the womb and grow as beings, right? And I'm picturing that, and as that tree grows, you're going through these different evolutions. So, a sapling would be the human, and then the hero would be a young tree, growing and so on. And I just was struck by that imagery, and the message is really beautiful because it speaks to the inner strength and that inner resolve and spirit, the intangible. It's not talking so much about the physical and things that you need to do, but you need to take action in the world, and you need to take these principles and allow them to flow out into life. But you need that inner strength and that spiritual essence to give you the backbone to do these things. And yeah, it's a beautiful example of a lot of aspects of life and how life is multidimensional, and it all flows into this tapestry. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jesse. Anyone else who wants to pop in, say a few words? Okay, for me, it's interesting because, I've heard you reading it before, and this was now, I've heard it it's almost like I heard it for the first time again. And there was the champion and the hero and the human, and all I kept hearing, I'm human, I'm human, I'm human. And I was thinking, this is really interesting because I think especially now where we're going through a time which is rather chaotic, the element of being human is really sticking out now, isn't it? And what does being human actually mean in a situation where, we have so much shit going on, basically, So, a question to you guys is, well, what does being human actually mean to you?
Still trying to figure that one out.
Anything that comes up, just can you unmute me? Okay, yes, Mary, I can. You're not muted, darling. Sorry, Matt. Mary, you're not muted if you hear us. Hi, Andrea, by the way. Thanks for coming on. Matt is just telling us what it means to him to be human.
How is my audio? Does it work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't trust my technology. It's crazy. You see, when I listen to that, I've heard it before as well, and it's a word salad that for many people you wouldn't even be able to understand the flow of it. And there's certain aspects of those kinds of word salads, those kinds of where you can shoot those kind of things. But the beautiful thing about that piece, when I first heard it, it actually moved me to tears, is the fact that you can understand that she knows exactly what she's saying, and that each and every one of those lessons has not just been emulated, it's been understood, understood and synthesized. And that's what I got from that. It's the layers between the words that where you can really feel the energy behind it. It's beautiful. I love it. It's absolutely beautiful.
The frequency of the words, and of course the voice, as well. The pheromones, and obviously it's her document, so there's a lot of heart in that.
That's beautiful.
There's a lot of that, yeah. Anyone else? What does being human mean to you in a time of resetting, recalibration, restructure,
destruction as well? Gosh.
Destruction, yes. Well, we have to destruct in order to recalibrate and come up with stuff. it's one of those things, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, if I may talk again for a little bit, this has been absolutely mind-blowing for me, this whole experience, because what I thought it was to be human, you know, there were many different layers to it. I have to say that from what I observe, everybody doesn't seem to be equal, and that goes for their humanity as well. You know, some people have much less humanity than others, that's for sure. And it's funny to try to figure out exactly what it does mean to be human, because at the moment I can't put my finger on it. It seems to be such an eclectic thing, and you know, we definitely feel. I mean, I felt the disunity before, but now it seems to be on steroids. You know, and there were people that I understood that now I just completely don't, and I think that goes vice versa as well. So the idea to explain what humanity is, I'm still trying to understand it myself, and that's, you know, I said it half jest, but also it's serious as well. It really is something that humanity is something that I have to work on constantly. But relating that to others becomes a really difficult situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, you said something about, you know, not understanding people or people disappearing, you know, or connection. And we call that separation of density. Okay.
Yes.
This is a term we're using in our consciousness exploration. That basically just means that certain people that we've known probably for a very long time, even called friends, are all of a sudden disappearing.
Yes.
That can happen overnight. I have people that I used to talk to a lot, and all of a sudden there is just no communication going. It's like I wouldn't call it interest, but, you know, has completely changed. But it's just a vibration, the frequency, and there's you need to talk anymore.
And it's gone into turbo. It's absolutely gone into turbo for us all right now. Yeah. I'll give you a simple example. Okay, I have I work on the free market. And there's just sorry.
It means what? What does that mean?
Free market means the black market, basically. Okay, if I will. So basically, I don't pay tax. I offer services for which I don't pay tax that some might deem illegal. You know.
We're going to put on Facebook. No,
that's okay. I don't mind people seeing. I don't mind people seeing. No one knows where I live. But so that's what I meant by that. Okay, the free market. Okay, so there's certain people that I have, clientele that I have, that they're just purely just for the sake that I've known them so long, and these are people that I wouldn't associate with anymore, you know, because of the way they speak, the things that they do, and the separation of densities for me has been huge, you know, a huge process over the last 6-7 years, but recently it's just almost to the point now where it's a thought away. If that makes sense, like an intention, like this one particular person came around, he was very dismissive to one of my daughters, and quite offensive actually, you know, and I just remember saying in my head, right, that's you then, that's that one, you know, and I tried to formulate a way in which to politely say, I'm sorry, but you can't come round anymore. And this is a friend from school. That's how long. I mean, I'm 41, you know, so that's how long I've known this particular gentleman. And since that one thought, he hasn't even phoned. It was months and months ago. And it's like, you know, the separation densities now, it just seems to be, there's just such a huge separation between humanity. Yeah.
You also just mentioned actually instant manifestation, you know. It's
yes.
You say it, you think it, and there it is. Now, of course, we can also apply that to positive things, to more, you know, I'm not saying this was negative because it's positive in the end, but, you know, if there's anything that you actually require or you wish, desire, you know, you could actually now start applying that principle and that energy that actually in right now, you know, creates order, as we know. And that type of instant manifestation, that non-linear way of manifesting is really coming to the forefront.
Yes, for sure.
And I think for me, this is where the big thing about being human comes through again, because we humans actually starting to get to know ourselves in a completely different way.
Yes.
I'm hugely excited about that.
Absolutely. What does Andrew Barsis refer to it as? The human handbook or something? Or the instruction manual? Something like that. Yeah. It's like we're having to learn the instruction manual for ourselves through trial and error.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're starting to
Yeah, one
understand how it
thing-
actually functions.
If I can just come in and say one thing, I think about being human that unites us all is we all do have the same potential,
We do.
you know.
Okay.
And it's a question of whether we choose to tap into that this lifetime or not.
Or become a signature frequency match for being aware of it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
know, it worse in
Yeah.
our consciousness
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in addition, there is this interesting dichotomy, maybe oxymoron actually, where you say on the one hand, we're as humans, every single one of us, every individual goes into diverse knowing of oneself, you know, and bringing out that special, unique, what's the word for it, knowingness that they have, their own truth. And at the same time, you got the bigger picture of humanity coming together. It's almost like letting go of competition, because there no longer is competition.
No, there isn't.
A new type of world, because everybody just does what they're good at, what they love, what they're passionate about. And that's why there's no competition, because we all do it a different way. I mean, there are thousands of bloody Zooms out there, but we're doing it the way we do it. That's what makes it unique. And this big truth thing comes in, where there is not one truth. Every single one of us has a different truth, and every single one is true, right?
Yeah.
Let me bring Andre in here, because you got 2 daughters and they have their own truths, right? How have you? You've learned a lot through them, isn't it? Oh, you must unmute, darling. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 with a third on the way. Well, third who's arrived. But yeah, they do. They have they have their own truths. They have their own paths. They're very different. The two older ones. It's difficult to. I kind of think about it, but I try not to really, because they're in such different ages and they're doing different things. I spend a lot of time with them, but I try not to really think about it too much. I've kind of distanced myself or removed myself from society quite a bit. So this transition or this period we're going through now doesn't really affect me that much at all, actually. I think I'm kind of trying to rebuild myself for whatever's coming next. Without knowing about it. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Just tell the group what you do.
Oh, I was in the oil industry for over 20 years, and then we had Ebola. I was living in Nigeria. We had Ebola, and there was election issues, and I just become a father. I've already had my wife came to live with me with her daughter, and then I became father for the second time, and I kind of thought it was time to leave Nigeria, because there was just having a family was different from being single and running around Africa. And sort of took responsibility for that, moved to Europe, France, and then had some projects that didn't come through. But in the meantime, I was studying what I always wanted to study, which was graphic design, and I'm still trying to get it to a level where I'm self-sufficient of it. But in the meantime, I'm working now online for a company in San Fran. The guy took a chance with me. He saw my CV and gave me their most difficult client. So it's been a huge learning experience. Pretty scary at times, but everything seems to be clicking into place finally. I've still got a few things that I need to try and iron out, but other than that, I've really removed myself from society as we know it. I live in a village in Portugal that's there's pretty much not much happening except for surf and yoga. So it's
Hey,
yeah, I mean,
let's not talk yoga down, all right?
No, I'm not talking it down at all.
Hello.
No, I mean, I like the surf aspect, the yoga aspect. I mean, I like the intense yoga. I haven't got into it here yet, though. But yeah, so my daughters, watching them grow, watching them do their own thing. Sometimes it's frustrating, but then I also see my step parents towards me. I see myself being the same to my stepdaughter, and I try to be a little bit more open or not to be so judgmental. And then with my other daughter, the middle one, I see what how I react and how my father might have reacted. And I'm trying to just be a little more grounded. I spend a lot more time with my family than I guess luckily enough to than most people. So in this current situation or time, I don't know, for me it's like being in a cocoon and maybe reinventing or just trying to figure things out. So I'm not in a rush for anything. Am I excited? Yeah, a bit hesitant in some places, but I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it other than I'm just doing what I'm doing and seeing where it takes me, really. I feel that I'm still cocooned for a little bit longer in hibernation or whatever you want to call it. I'm not ready to come out yet, but it's coming soon. There's a lot of ideas manifesting in my head that I'm trying to bring out into the open once they're ready. A few of them have failed in the beginning because they weren't ready to come out. But I think there's a lot of good opportunity and positive opportunity all around us. I really do feel that. But I also feel there's a lot of people lagging behind, which is, it's nothing, I'm not saying that in a negative way, but there's a lot of people that don't maybe relate. Even my parents are here now, and I've had quite a few issues with them. And, they see me at home baking bread and making kombucha, and my mom's like, whoa, you got quite hippie. And I said, no, but you don't really know.
South Africa, let me throw that in. That's double difficult to understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was trying to maintain a level of, with my wife leaving, I wanted the children to carry on eating and doing things like I make pancakes on Sunday because that's what their mom did. But it's made me learn how to do other things. So I think it's also a lot of people, I feel maybe it's just because I've gone, I don't know why or how, but I've gone into the situation and I feel that there are a lot of people that are still the same. There's nothing wrong with it, but maybe I feel a little bit more awake, maybe. I'm not sure why or how, and I'm not really fighting it. I'm just sort of going with the flow. So those are my comments really on that. I mean, it's quite a long subject, I guess.
Well, yeah, and yeah, thanks for sharing that. And also, what I want to add to that, Andre, you're doing graphic design now, logo creation, and all of that. And I've known you for many years because we used to work, in the oil industry, and you have started that journey, as you just said now, quite a few years ago, where you started to actually do the things that you're really passionate about. That has been, I understood that the graphic design has been a hobby of yours, which you're now taking into your profession, career, whatever you want to call it. And I think this is now an opportunity for us. We've probably been already doing it we have certainly been doing it for a couple of years, but for anybody out there, once they start recognizing what's actually going on, and as Laura said in the hero's journey, it's all about trust. You have to trust, and do the inner journey and stop having doubts and stop trying to go out for external validation all the time, and just really starting to work with yourself. And this is, I think, the most difficult thing for people who have not experienced any of that path yet.
I think right now, what I'm finding really interesting is that because I work from home and my wife, Diana, is also at home full time. Like for us, okay, she's not here now, but I mean, we spend so much time together. We have our own interests within our own home, so we don't get in each other's way. But I've never seen it as an issue. But what's really interesting is under this isolation now is how many people don't actually know their families, their wives or their husbands or even their children. I'm finding that really interesting because I literally live at home. So for me, it's not an issue. This is just normal for me now. And I'm finding that disconnect in society is I find it very interesting, especially, I guess, being South African, especially just watching and seeing people, how they're stocking up on like booze, and I've got nothing wrong with drinking, I mean, at all. But I'm just saying that like, it's, and how people think this is a short-term thing. It's interesting to see how this will unravel. Because there's people who, I don't know, it's just strange, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see the disconnect of of us as a society, and I'm talking middle class people. And then the other aspect of that, a friend of mine works in charities in South Africa mostly for domestic abuse, and also how scared she is for families that are now locked in with abusive, child abuse or spousal abuse. So there's a lot happening right now. Maybe this, because we're not going anywhere in Portugal, we're stuck here for at least June. So I mean, if that's going to happen in other places, a lot of things are going to come out now, a lot. And maybe this is a reset. Everybody talks about the specific word reset. Maybe this is a reset. I don't know. I mean, maybe us who are having this conversation, maybe we're slightly ahead of the curve. And again, I don't mean that in any other manner than just as it is. But it's very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 3 months, because I think a lot of people are going to have to. You got no choice. You're going to have to come to terms with living with the people that you chose to live with, and I do feel quite apprehensive, even though I'm not directly involved in some of this abuse that may happen. But other than that, it's very interesting to see how people react or how they live in these current conditions. I'm looking at it from an outside point of view.
And it's only just started.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I just chip in there? In West Sussex, we've actually had a family of 4, mother, father, and 2 children, all found murdered. We don't know who by, but not from outside. So nobody else is a suspect. So we now have situations where people are very contained, and entities really have a feast and a field day, the negative entities out there. And sadly, I think we will see more of this. And I think one thing that really needs to be got over to people is the importance of spiritual hygiene.
Yes.
But, and the importance of maintaining that. And even if you call spiritual hygiene going out and having a walk with some trees in the day, getting some nature and getting some sun. And it's what my heart goes out to people in flats, people in apartments who have to share the stairwell and the lift before they can even get to a park, which, might be closed. So they're back on the streets. So, we've had a complete change of lifestyle for a lot of people. I mean, obviously not so much for Matty, not so much for Andre, and in some ways not so much for me. And obviously, I've got the wherewithal to do the spiritual hygiene. But people need to understand what spiritual hygiene means and how they can make such a difference to their lives when they're in this isolation, to actually put it into practice.
So since we are recording this for people to listen to it afterwards, if they so choose, why don't you tell us a little bit about spiritual hygiene in very, easy terms?
Yeah, briefly, we are surrounded by all sorts of entities. There is an unseen world out there that us on this group probably all acknowledge, and a lot of people do, but there's a lot of people who still do not acknowledge the unseen world and might never do. But, all we can do is perhaps reach out and say, look, it's there. It's not even, you don't always have to see it. You can feel it and it can affect your life. And entities can come, and the way shamans look at it, if entities don't come in equal co-creation, in other words, you exchange energy equally, then one of you is taking energy from another. Absolutely. And that's called energy harvesting. So you can have entities that hang around, that particularly feed off negative vibration, and one of their favorite ones is fear. And that was part of my shaman's death, so I was particularly close and and it's I think the best way of describing that in its extreme example is like Harry Potter's Dementors, where they suck the life force out of you, and that's what I've been through. So I have learned a lot about this, and I think it can happen. It definitely happen in families who are not keeping themselves spiritually clean. Now, some people can sort of almost do this naturally, But that's in a normal day-to-day life where they're going in and out the house, they're going for walks, they're going into other areas where you can go out of a certain area and you can lose those negative entities that are around you and taking your life force. You know, you can go for a nice long walk and you will feel better when you come back. So we can't do that under isolation, although some of us can. It depends on where you are. So what you have to deal with are the entities that are in your house and possibly around you, and taking your life force and creating situations where it creates a lot of fear or disharmony, where they love that energy. So, you know, one of the basic things is saging the household, saging the whole house, and then close all the windows and doors, and then open one window or door when you've done it, and have a look at the smoke coming.
Let me just interrupt you there for one minute before we go into how to help with, with that. I just want to say something for people who have no experience with entities. So we're not talking about wild, weird things flying around going to bite you in the ass or something. Yeah. So, you know, an entity is really a thought form. Okay.
Yeah.
It has gone awry. Okay, it's actually a habitual pattern in our programming that we have allowed in our energy field. So very simply, you know, if somebody gets really angry a lot out of the blue without really knowing how to control it, if you wish, or how to get out of it, that would be an entity. So that is, like you mentioned fear, but it's also anger, for instance. So very often when we have very angry outbursts, it's actually a form of entity, a thought form that we've been carrying around with us for a very long time. And we might have just picked that up. You know, it's like we might have had parents or teachers or anyone when we were smaller who projected a lot of anger onto us, which we then bought as our anger, and then we carried on with that pattern, with that programming, if you wish, over time, until it's almost starting to control us. So that thought form is so ingrained in us that it is starting to control us in a way by us having, well, no control over, you know, knowing how to deal with the anger. So I just wanted to throw that in for people to it's not like a vampire or something as such.
Can I add a few words here as well?
Yes, but you know, for people who have not heard about that before, just and of course that's inner work. Sorry, just one more thing.
Yes, okay.
Inner work is so important to actually let go of all the emotions, and it's not just anger or fear, all the emotions that running our life, you know, and that make us react in a way where we don't seem to have any control.
That's right. Now, spiritual hygiene is one of those things that when we talk about things like entities and things like this, you know, if you're not practicing any form of spiritual hygiene, you have very little chance of actually being able to know exactly what type of entity you're dealing with. So spiritual hygiene in itself is for me, it's something that many more people should do that they're not doing. And it's so simple. I mean, I started with just a simple daily clearing routine, which was a meditative, you know, like a meditative technique of clearing the energy in my home. And then I call it a clear and a shield. You know, I've taught this to my children. It's very, very basic and very simple, a clear and shield technique. And once you've had that for a while, it develops and it morphs and changes. And over the years, a simple, basic clear and shield technique can turn into something that, you know, you can turn into a business. I mean, it can be that powerful and that potent with your own belief behind it. And also, sometimes we're dealing with our own parasympathetic, which has the ability and access to all of our own psychic skills. So once you're able to create an environment through whichever method you use, saging is a good one, but there are also some alchemical processes like organite or sacred brews, and many different ways to do spiritual hygiene. Once you have developed a technique that that you've had for long enough, then you start to begin to see how your own self is projecting these kind of phenomenon. Sometimes what you think is an entity is actually your own parasympathetic, having access to your own psychic talents. But having said that, spiritual hygiene is the basic, and it's the one thing that in all of my clients and all the people that I help, it's the one thing that people refuse to do or leave out. They just want to go straight to the good stuff, straight to the airy-fairy stuff, straight to all the meditations and things, without actually protecting the space that they live in. And you know, it's something that is absolutely essential to a spiritual journey. Absolutely essential if you need any form of clarity.
So let's do one very simple tool. I'm going to throw one in, and then you can throw one in too. So very simple tool. You're having a shower probably on a daily basis. So when you have a shower and you know you're washing your physical body, just have an awareness, add the awareness that you can also wash your emotional body and your vibrational free, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, just emotional body. As you're washing your skin, you just imagine, use your imagination, because that is a powerful manifestation tool, and just, you know, use it and clear all the crap. And you can use your own wording. You don't have to come up with any fancy words. Just say whatever that is not relevant, whatever that is not useful for my body, I'm just going to wash it down with the soap, with the water. And as the water disappears through the plug hole, you just imagine this shit just running away. One of those. And because we've got men with kids here now, it's particularly interesting and important for kids, because pure light, especially at that young age, and they will automatically attract a lot of entities to them for whatever reason. That's a chat we can do on a different Zoom. But, you know, to actually teach your children very simple tools of spiritual hygiene is very, very, very powerful. And it also invites them to start taking responsibility for their energy, for their bodies, for their emotions.
Exactly.
Have we got another tool for that, since we're on it?
Say that again.
Have we got another tool, one more tool maybe for people who want to go into the spiritual hygiene a bit more and start, just one practical tool they can use?
Crystals in the four corners. Yeah.
Go for it, Matt, yeah?
I see, things like crystals in the four corners of the room or the house. I mean, I use ancestral balancing, so I use brews, like high strength alcohol brews, with a lot of prayer, like sometimes up to 20 hours of prayer in each brew. But something could be so simple as just 4 crystals that you take with you wherever you go, that have all of your prayer power in it. So whenever you make your meditations, make your prayers, you hold those crystals and you imprint that into it. That's something so very basic that's there, it's tangible, and it's your belief that empowers them. Yes. So anything like that, just objects, sacred objects, is probably one of the easiest things that you can do.
Also, Epsom salt baths, you guys haven't mentioned. Those are really good.
Yeah.
Pure salt baths, absolutely.
Yeah. And revocations are really important.
Yes, prayer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And claiming your sovereignty is a big one. Claim your sovereignty and live from your heart. So ground yourself and bring your mind down into your heart. I mean, you don't need anything for that. You just visualization.
That's it, isn't it, Laura? And the thing, what people don't seem to understand is that the reason that all of these methods work is because you have belief in them, and using them is you saying no. You no longer give tacit consent. The moment that you say, no, you cannot affect my reality, they cannot affect your reality. And whatever you use is just reinforcing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We lost Martina now.
Yeah.
And a lot of this perspective comes down to whether you're in an actionary state or a reactionary state, so to speak. Am I taking charge of my reality and my space, and am I being intentional, or am I letting these things occur to me? Am I just so it's a total change of your mindset. It helps to empower you in your day-to-day living, and you're more at ease and you're more grounded because of these practices that, you know, are clearing you of, you know, whatever thought forms or things, you know, that maybe over time have built up and are dragging you down. You're just, you know, washing it all away so that you have this, you know, base point that you can operate from.
That's right, Jesse. And some people learn these things because they learn to protect themselves. So like you say, from a reactionary state, you learn to protect yourself from it, you know, and then eventually it just becomes a way of life because you just put the protection there before the attack comes.
Yeah. And I always say to people to imagine they can actually see these energies. So if you could see them, you know, would you allow thugs into your house to break your house up? You know, no. would you, if you could see them, what they were doing, you know, would you allow, or would you remove them? Would you stand your ground? Would you stand in your heart, your I am presence, you know, and say, no, you can't do this? No. That's basically what a revocation is. You're claiming your sovereignty and saying you can't do it. So you almost pretend that you can see them.
Exactly.
And I think that helps a lot.
And if you can see them, you know, and you see something like that attached to a child, it's the most god-awful sight. You know, if people could actually see these things, they would be horrified. What's around them? Yeah. Absolutely horrified, like shit all over the walls. It's awful, absolutely awful.
I think, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to do a special one, which we title "Spiritual Hygiene," or you know, entities, because I mean we can talk about this forever, and
it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, it is. People can hop on who are really interested in that aspect. But I think, you know, coming back to the initial question, what does being human mean to you? Is quite interesting. It actually means to look at your multidimensional self and actually allow yourself to look at something like that, you know. So human doesn't just mean you are a flesh and bone suit and you just eat and fart and, you know, go to and you know, so there is much more to that. So let's just go back. Let's go away from the spiritual hygiene now and just go back into what else does human mean to you in terms of I want to do another consciousness one, maybe to talk about the rift in families, because I think what Andre mentioned is a big one, you know. And it goes both ways, because it really can bond a family together and really reevaluate the whole family bondage and relationship, or it could go into separation of density. Interesting where people find themselves, you know, some of them are separated, some of them are really stuck together, and maybe this is a time of karmic resolution, really, where this virus is facilitating humanity and not beyond humanity and nature and earth and other planets and the whole to really start looking at how are we going to interact. I mean, we see it with economy collapse, because obviously it's time to let go of corruption, you know, but, you know, without speaking about the corruption in the economy and all of that, there's a lot of corruption going on in our relationships, and, you know, maybe it's time to really look at that and start getting a bit honest with each other, what's really going on, isn't it?
Well, I think there's a lot going on in terms of for me personally, I guess I like to, it's the same as even learning my graphic design and also just being on my own. I've had to deal with, or I am dealing with me, and I bring in a lot, and then I need time to digest it, and I don't think about anything, and I just let it all fall in where it's supposed to be. But I think there's a lot of gurus and there's a lot of self-help people, and there's a lot of quotes, and there's a lot of lies. There's a lot of things that are, I feel, that are being said. I said something on Facebook to a friend today about selfishness and selflessness, and it's there's a lot of, it's the same as I group it with the same as the corruption that you talk about, Martina. There's just so much rubbish and bullshit out there that this reset or the being stuck at home, I think hopefully you don't have any other way but to actually look at it and actually see what's real or not, in my opinion. There's just all these self-help and this get money and this and that. It's just led us, social media has been a huge catalyst with this. And I guess we have to somehow, it has to just stop. But maybe this is part of the process. I don't think it will stop immediately. But it's all the self-help stuff and the gurus. I've got a mate who I knew from school who used to do a lot of yoga. I'm not dissing yoga, but he was into going to India and checking out the gurus, and then he was doing self-help stuff, and he's actually just dismissed all of it now. And I can see where he's going with that, because there's a lot of people want to eat the ice cream. They don't want to do the hard work. I mean,
exactly.
I think all the self-help, doesn't matter what aspect you're looking into it all goes towards the same thing. But if you're not willing to put the hard work in it, and you're trying to pluck out all the good things, you're just not going to get there. I think Matthew mentioned something like that earlier on with some of his clients. You have to do the hard work. There's pain, and it's just part of the process. You know, there's
persistent pain.
Pleasure. You know, it's just the way it is, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, and
It's an inside job.
Go, sir, Laura.
I just said it's an inside job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at any of the like immemorial philosophies, they all say to go inside. You know, don't look externally for, you know, your peace and happiness. You have to go inside, and you have to sort yourself out, and then you'll see your external world, you know, unfold in ways that are, you know, beneficial to you. So, you know, that's kind of like the timeless philosophy that's always stuck. And, you know, today's society, by and large, you know, we are consumerism based. So we're all trained to go externally to, you know, purchase the things that bring us happiness and satisfy whatever it is that's, you know, frustrating us in our lives, instead of addressing those very issues, which is what you're talking about. So yeah, like in this case, you're just forced to, you know, deal with whatever it is, and it comes to the surface, and it's not pretty in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, definition is a big culprit in all of that, because, you know, everything that you define, you can then start to judge to a certain extent. If you just deal with what is in the moment, because you have to, and you don't give it a specific name, then things will become, it's much easier to deal with it. Because, I mean, what I'm hearing here is there's a lot of, you know, corruption in spirituality, if you wish, as well, with all this guruism and all that bullshit, you know, coming in. And, you know, spirituality itself, for me, it's, you're spiritual because you're breathing. We're all breathing? Okay, we're spiritual. That's about it. Okay? That's where it gets. And now we're going to say, okay, so we're all breathing. That's good. So we're all spiritual. That's great. So what's it going to take to breathe more joyfully, you know, and to be more happy while we're breathing, right? So just one word to pain and hard work. What if it doesn't have to be hard work? What if commitment to ourselves is actually joyful and blissful? And what if there's nothing wrong with pain? What if pain is not even, what if pain is an intensity that can create beyond? And so many people who are in pain, they need to be in pain before they actually start acting and doing stuff, right? So pain is a huge motivator, just like chaos is, just like turmoil is, what we've seen now. And then it comes down to choice. We always have choice. What are you going to choose with all of it? Are you going to look at it as a Armageddon and we're all dying? Or is it like, okay, so where are the opportunities here? Where are the possibilities? What can I actually create with that? How can I use this to contribute, to learn about myself, about my specific knowingness, my own truth, and then what the hell can I do with that?
Golden
I mean,
question.
you really speak of, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, please.
Chelsea, go.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, you're really speaking of the duality of life. You know, every experience you have can, you know, be something negative. You can look at it and you can, you know, contrive pain and judgment from it, or you can, you know, use it to your advantage. You know, sometimes it's hard to see where it can be advantageous, but every experience in life has that duality. And, you know, this is where a lot of, you know, the training that, you know, we as a group have had in relation to becoming neutral, just being the neutral witness to whatever's occurring. And from this place of, not being triggered to react, in a volatile way, or, from the neutral perspective, you can kind of, sit back and have an overview of the options that present themselves, and then choose, okay, well, what do I want?
Yeah, and this is in no way, as you're saying, discarding pain or not making it relevant, or not making it significant. Well, I would say, you got to acknowledge for what it is, for a catalyst, or, you acknowledge the emotion, but you don't make it significant to the effect that it destroys your life.
Yes.
Yeah, like if we were to take it back to Laura's, initial conversation on the, hero, champion, human, and so on, and these being different layers to the experience. And if you look at that as a tree, a full-grown tree, it's going to have those deep roots that go way down into the earth. And, these experiences that, can cause pain and suffering, maybe they only go a couple inches down your root. They don't really affect your roots that go 10 feet into the earth. It's that deeper resolve to allow whatever is present to be present, but not allow it to move you. It's that inner strength that we all have to build, and it allows us to persevere in spite of things that may initially cause, pain or suffering or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and also, I think Andre mentioned the word selfish and selflessness and stuff, because I think there's a huge misidentification of being human and having to be an emotional wreck, having to be emotionally adapt in order to, I think this is another conversation, a big one. What does actually emotional mastery, what does it actually mean? It doesn't deny you being sad and angry and fearful and everything, because every emotion has a purpose, and okay, what's the point I'm making? Lost the point. Anyway,
it can be fuel for, it can be a catalyst or fuel for whatever you want it to be.
Selflessness. What was that? There was something with selflessness I was going to say. Yeah. Okay. So it's a bit going back to the martyrdom, I think, and being human and emotions. Yeah. I mean, it is emotions are human traits. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we have to completely dissolve in the emotions. And very often, I think there's a misperception when humans are not reacting constantly. Oh my God, this is so sad, and this is sad, and this is sad, and this is this, and this is that. They are being considered as selfish, or they're being considered as cold, or that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of projection on humanity and emotions, and I think lots of people get lost in that soup of, okay, so if I'm not angry now, then I'm an asshole, or, so
yes.
It's a huge thing of having to align and agree, resist and react the whole time in order to be part of humanity. And I think this brings us back. So what does human mean to me? Doesn't mean to have to, tap into everything that's out there.
And this is where spirituality has been misleading, because people think that spirituality is a way to remove yourself from these things, whereas actually a way to understand them and to allow them to move over you and through you without them affecting you. There's so many people that I meet that when they tell a sad story, that they don't see an immediate effect in me, and they think therefore that I must be some kind of cold character, but it's not. It's just because, I'm not allowing my body and my central nervous system to overrun me. I take the information, take it for what it is, and then respond accordingly. And that's the big lie about spirituality, isn't it? That's what people think, that it's all, unicorn poop and rainbow farts and so forth. But it's hard work. But the hard work isn't hard because, it's the same. Anybody who's done any form of physical activity or discipline knows that the hard work bears fruit in the end. And what's difficult at the beginning becomes a joy later on down the line. And that's where the pleasure is. You don't go straight to the pleasure and the joy. That's a happy side effect of the discipline of your journey.
Yeah, remaining sacred neutral, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Information will change me.
It requires a lot of trust, doesn't it?
It does.
In yourself, yeah.
In yourself.
And failure.
Yeah, that's part of the inner work, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and an allowance to be judged by others and made fun of, you know, and stuff like that in the beginning, you know.
Or misunderstood, simply misunderstood. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Misunderstood, yeah. Considered a failure, even if you wish. I mean, I do remember.
Or a fool.
Yeah, Emma is 20, and, you know, obviously having gone through rigorous spiritual hygiene tools with me and all of that, you know. She's amazing, Andrea. You know her. And she's been saying that the less, she used to be a huge drama queen. And it took a lot of, it took a lot out of her. And she was exhausted. And I could hear her talk on the phone. It was like constantly people phoning her up and really like sucking the life force out of her.
Yeah.
She was like going in and trying to explain. And, you know, over the years, she stopped doing that. And in the beginning, she did say to me, she said, Mama, they all think I'm a cold bitch now because I'm. I said, oh, well, welcome to my world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And once you overcome that, you know, I mean, I cry every 5 seconds, but it's longer. It's like my body is now crying, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
See, this is another conversation we're going to have at some stage. But we are not our bodies, you know, and my body is a crybaby. You know, but there is no emotional charge attached to it. It's just tears coming down, a recognition and acknowledgement of what's happening. And because we're all empathetic, but it doesn't do anything to me. It doesn't suck me dry anymore when that happens. It's almost like, oh, cool. It's almost like I see it now as, because, you know, I mean, the question to all of you is your body a healer? Most of us have bodies that are healers, and that's what my body does. I mean, it yawns, it sniffles, it cries, and that's the way my body heals. And now I know that it's okay. There was a time where it was hurting me because I didn't acknowledge it. But now, having acknowledged it after so many years of having done the work, I now can just say, okay, are we doing this? All right, then. Let's do it. Let's cry. Let's yawn. Let's do this. You know?
And that really comes down to you having an awareness of that. You know, how long did it take you to get to a point where you even realized that was occurring? And, you know, we as a society, you know, a lot of the points that you guys have been expressing through this conversation have been about labels that we associate with things. And, you know, we have societal beliefs that are imposed upon us. And, you know, there's a time where it takes, you know, there's a time where you have to separate, you know, what are my beliefs and what are society's beliefs. And, you know, this is coming back to the separation of densities and all this other stuff. You know, you're seeing, you know, the various liquids kind of distill out and separate. And, you know, that's, you know, a lot of this is just awareness, you know, like you said, you know, acknowledging your body's doing these things, allowing it, it's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with this. And did I just fart? Oh my goodness.
And to bring in that phrase that A.B. Andrew Bartz has coined, is like, your truth is your protection.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah.
People use protection because, like, you know, oh, I need to protect myself because I'm not potent enough. No, you are very potent. You don't use protection because you are less than. You use protection because you are fully aware what is going on out there when you choose to take yourself away, to take yourself out of a situation, or you just use, you know, this truth that, you know, your knowingness, that is your protection. It's one of the best phrases. I love it. Truth is your protection. Love it. Not from a lesser being place, but from a powerful, potent human perspective. Because, face it, humans are super fucking powerful.
If they choose to be.
Yeah. Choice creates, yes.
Sure.
Well, I mean, you're always creating. It's whether are you creating or is, you know, the forces around you creating through you. You know, it's
in awareness or unawareness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. Fabulous. What does human mean to you? exciting, joyful, curious, destructive of the potency that we have, of course. And this is not our first bloody lifetime. We've been here many, 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 many times, if you believe lifetimes or not, you know. And, you know, the time will come very soon where you just all of a sudden start remembering lifetimes like, oh shit, be that now in the dream time, or be that now you're talking to somebody and all of a sudden you have a flash of like, oh, I've known you, I've seen you before, what, you know, and stuff like that, because the veil is thinning and the density, you know, is getting less and less and less, and the frequency is obviously, you know, getting much, much more higher, you know. So it's we are on a bloody ride here. We are.
We are, and it makes it much more difficult to actually define what humanity is, because there, you know, there is such a difference right now. The separation of densities is increasing at such a rapid rate. And when you think about what kind of souls are in what kind of bodies, and we all share the human body, but the spirit, the essence, is most definitely not the same. You know, this is something that I'm starting to see massively. I mean, and to go on about things about children and stuff like this, one particularly potent experience that I've had out of all of this was I've got 4 daughters, and my eldest daughter actually said, I picked a few people that I thought I'm going to give them my perspective, because I've learned better than to do that, you know. I've learned much better than to just tell people what I think, you know. And so I thought I'd pick a few that I really care about, just to say, look guys, this is what I think is going to happen, please be careful. And my eldest daughter, she's 19, coming 20, and she rejected it completely, and actually suggested that I go and get mental help. You know? And she did. She really did. And she meant it. I could see she was afraid for me. And my father said that the world is fucked, and I don't care if I die anyway. That was his response to me. I couldn't believe it, you know. And so I've had to learn. I've had to learn to let go of things that I never thought I'd have to learn to let go of. They're almost things that I feared letting go of. And this situation that we're in now just seems to be just exposing everything, you know, on a massive scale. So to ask the question, what does human mean to you? And that's why I say, I don't even think I know right now, because everything I thought I know has now been flipped.
Yeah, it changes.
You know? Yeah. This is a remarkable set of circumstances we find ourselves in. And there's no pattern recognition at all. I've got nothing to focus on.
What I hear when you're, you know, telling that story, Matthew, is I hear your desire to protect these people. You know, you're conveying information that you feel is going to be fruitful and benefit them and safeguard them from, you know, what you fear is to come ahead if they, you know, don't, you know, take it seriously. But, you know, that's the reason that I can see that in your conveyance is because that's a lesson that I've had to learn over and over and over. Like, you can't protect people. I mean, you know, often it's just a Band-Aid, you know, it covers the problem for a little bit, but then it comes back up, and until they do that real inner work to heal whatever it is, or change, or, you know, rise above whatever recurring pattern they're experiencing, you know, they're not going to grow. So in this case, you know, it's unfortunate, and hopefully they don't have to have, you know, horrible wake-up calls, but this might be an experience where, you know, you can't safeguard them, and, you know, they learn some hard lessons.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the journey.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. You see, usually I wouldn't do such a thing, but, you know, it's a pretty big situation, isn't it? You know, it's a pretty big one, and you know, and to go to, you know, such lengths, and it came straight back at me, and that's the interesting thing about it. It came straight back at me, but it did teach me detachment. Well, it forced me into detachment. It is forced evolution. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, our hands are being twisted.
However well-meaning it is.
Yes, it's still forced. Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting situation.
And, you know, as a father, you know, you have, I don't know if what you're saying was related to your children only, because, you know, as a father, you have a responsibility, and I don't care how old the children are, you know, I mean,
Yes.
my daughter's 20, so I could say she's an adult, do your thing. And I did say that too, but then my mouth just opens up and I was like, oh, did you actually acknowledge that? And la, la, la. She's like, Mama, shut up now. Okay. But they get it. They get it. And the good thing is, because, you know, we've developed that neutrality. It's, you know, if they blame us, you know, for being ridiculous, that's fine too. I just laughed. Okay, darling. Who cares, you know? The question is, are you willing to be a bad dad? Are you willing to be a obnoxious son? Are you willing to be a stupid bitch? Yeah, I am. Totally.
Yes.
Whatever you want me to be, I'll be it.
Yes. Kind of used to looking crazy now. Kind of used to looking crazy. Yeah.
Jesse?
I was just laughing. I was enjoying the
Okay.
discussion. Yeah.
No, it's that one thing. Whatever people throw at you, it's got nothing to do with you. And that's such a lovely thing to know. It's like, okay, that's fine. And it's so interesting. If you actually look at that little principle there, whatever they tell you is totally applicable to them. They just use.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. It's actually quite embarrassing. I mean, like, oh, is that what's happening in your life?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it is that one thing where, you know, you have to learn just to say thank you and yes, okay, you know,
Yeah.
Just that. It's an interesting. But then again, that's where our choice comes back in, and our responsibility that, you know, we cannot expect everyone to speak our language and be on the same wavelength, especially when we're acknowledging separation of density. And that
Sure.
with partners, that goes with children. Just because they are part of your family doesn't mean that they have to get you. And what my experience has been, if I sort myself out with people that do get me and we speak the same language, then it's so much easier for me to actually talk a different jargon, if you wish. And it is almost a different type of words that you have to use, because certain words cannot be heard by people, you know. And you just know this is a good question. What is required here? What do I need to say in order to be understood?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. So this is something that I've been struggling with for a few years now. Is the ability to water down the things I know in order to deliver them in a way that's understood by people that are asking the questions.
Okay, I got something for you, Matt. That's going to take you right back. Ask the question, is it a kindness? Because you are obviously a kind guy here. So is it a kindness if I share that with that person? Is that person willing to hear it? And if they're not willing to hear it, if they can't hear it, it's not a kindness. You still there?
You there, Martina?
Did you hear that? Yeah?
No, I missed it completely.
Okay, interesting. So is it kindness? A good question to ask when you know you have a level of awareness and you want to share that. And very often what I found, it's not a kindness to share your level of awareness, because it's not understood by and that there's no judgment in any of that.
No, it's a violence. It's a violence. I do think it is. Yeah.
It is almost, well, it's a judgment if you're not your awareness. And I used to do a lot of that, but from a place of excitement, I just wanted to share, and I thought everybody would love to share. And in reality, I was just a superior bitch, because, you know, I was just trying to get stuff out, wanting them to get it, and when they didn't, they attacked me.
Yes.
Until I realized what was going on. And now I just choose not to share with people who don't want to share with me.
This is it. And
that.
But it gets so frustrating because I have lots and lots of people that come to me for readings or these kind of you know, or even just advice.
What do you do?
Sorry?
Tell us what you do.
All different kinds of bits and bobs. All different kinds of bits and bobs. Yeah. I won't go too into what I do for money, but but I do all kinds of different healings and readings. I have quite an eclectic toolbox where it comes to that kind of stuff. But I don't charge massive amounts of money, and I've never actually started a proper business doing it because of this fact that I'm still trying to find my language. Because if somebody asks a question, you know, then I want to give them the correct answer. But sometimes, in order to give them the correct answer, I have to explain what it is, what the answer actually means.
Okay.
You know, and do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. That's an easy one to change. We can change it right now. Don't give them answers.
But what if it's in a session, you see, and this is the thing. It's like
find a way for them to find their own answer.
Yeah.
You want to be an empowerer. You want to be empowering. We don't have the answers because our answers work for us, but not for them. So the best way of dealing with that is give them a question back. What is it that you know? What is it that you know? Because that immediately takes back the responsibility. It's like, oh, what do I know? Even if I don't know. I say, well, what if you would know?
I end up just doing tarot readings for everybody because that's just the easiest, most tangible way for them to see the teaching, you know.
That's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, almost. It's like many of us are peerless in a way. We're peerless, and it makes for something of a fairly lonely existence sometimes.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
There is another way as well, isn't there? Another way to help your family, your children and your parents in this time, and that is through the unseen world. So with ceremony and so on, your higher self going to their higher selves and so on, you all know, about that. And also the fact that every time you heal yourself, you're healing your 7 past and 7 future generations.
Yes.
So the more it goes back again to the inner work, and the more you do on yourself, everything you heal is carried backwards and forwards through time or no time, affecting their DNA. So sometimes I might think, well, my sons don't hear me, or don't agree or whatever, and I know I'm not treading on their journey if I just work on an aspect of myself that heals me, and then that will affect them long term. And there's so much in the unseen world that we do anyway, also in dream time, isn't it? There's so much that we do probably in our unawareness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And by doing that, I mean, this is one of the biggest gifts that you can actually give to your children, is by working on yourself and acknowledging the teachers that they are. Because every time they have a go at you and you react, there's something to
something to learn.
I mean, the stuff that I learned with Ems, and she was like, no, I'm not having this. And my upbringing was not easy. So, and child
downstairs
children, you fall back. You almost fall back into becoming your mum or your dad. And then, with these children, it doesn't work. I'm like, okay, all right. And I figured out very quickly if I wanted to have a relationship with her, I had to change. So very, very powerful, very grateful for having children, isn't it? They are gurus out there, but being obnoxious as they are.
Martina, you're always enlightening me on the words that I use and like how to interpret things, and you're amazing at it. And one thing that I heard just now when you said that is you had to change, but I think maybe a better way of interpreting that was you had to adapt, you had to grow, you had to evolve, and think from a different perspective than you previously were. And like Andre was talking about in the self-help community, often these like we need to change are toted, but it's in opposition of like acceptance and allowance and these other things that are also toted. So we see a lot of contradictions without perhaps context, and it's just a matter of interpretation. And I think that's a good example of that. And, you're always showing me that. So
well, you're absolutely right. And when I look at because I'm not an English native speaker, so I look at the energy of a word. So if I look at change change has the same energy as growth for me.
Okay, so that goes back to perceptions, you know.
Yeah, it's in the same bucket for me as well. I love change because it's growth. Change for me is growth. I'm like change. The more change, the better. Because for me, that is growth. That is that. Just to verify that. But this is why it is so interesting. Depending on who you talk to, we're using words, and every word means something different, right?
Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own interpretation of that.
Exactly. Love is the biggest misunderstood word out there, and we are using it, all the time, and nobody really knows what it means because everybody has a completely different interpretation of it. I personally stopped using love because for me, love is by far too contaminated by the way people use it. It just doesn't work for me.
It's like it's developed into a passivity, hasn't it? Like the idea of what we hear people say, love and light. I've heard people saying that they can love and light their way out of this virus, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Love has become a word where it just doesn't, it doesn't require anything. Yeah, for sure.
No, I look at love I had to completely redefine it. So I work with compassion at the moment. Compassion is a word that is an energy that I can work with. And what I love about compassion, you got compassion. So you got the passion in it. The passion comes from you. And then, you can use your own passion by doing something like, for instance, doing a Zoom like that, talking to people like you guys. That makes me happy. It makes me joyful. Yeah. I can do this for hours. And that could be compassionate, because we're sharing. And the lovely thing with that is nobody who doesn't want to listen to it doesn't come on. Great. Yeah, we're still having fun, right? That's the main thing. So there's passion in compassion in a way, Make sense? No, I don't know.
Martina, have we still got Mary? Or is she gone?
No, Mary, no, she's still here.
She was having trouble with her microphone. So she's not really worried about it this session, but we'll fix it after and she'll be ready for that session.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've done 90 minutes. How are you guys still doing? Is there something that still comes up when we ask, stick with the question, human? Is there something or any of the chat we've had that brought up for you something you want to look at or you want to talk about, or are we running out of energy?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
I'm running out a bit of energy.
Yeah.
It's been interesting.
Okay, just one thing. Yeah, one thing. I've written down rift in families and the abuse. I think we could probably put that together. Spiritual hygiene, I'm looking for. I would like to, as we carry on these weekly ones, if everyone is happy, if you come back on, I'd be grateful. Have somebody to talk to. Other, obviously all the consciousness or a team will be here hopefully. But I think we can add value with that. I think we can. And it's not intrusive. So what we do is we take the recording. Jesse, our IT man, will put it on one of our websites that we have created together. Oh, and this, by the way, lovely people, this is Andre, and I've asked him to maybe do us a little logo for Earth Nouveau.
Yeah, I can maybe you're putting pressure on me here. Maybe we can all brainstorm. We'll have maybe a session where we'll do some. Maybe we'll have like another call, and we can throw some words and some understandings out there, and start working towards what we all feel, or we feel collectively, which direction you want to go to.
Cool.
Maybe. Can do that. That's probably the best way.
Organize a team Earth Nouveau with you at some
point.
Fabulous.
But I mean, it's very simply, it's just trying to extract what people's feelings and visions are on how to visually represent something that that you feel. I mean, that's all it really is.
Yeah,
It's communication. And
fabulous.
it's who do you want to communicate to? So it's I mean, design's pretty interesting because it's pretty similar to what you discuss anyway, right?
Yes, fabulous. Great. Well, I appreciate that. So thanks for coming on today for our first open ones. Let's see.
No, thanks for the invite.
All the space holders who didn't say anything, thank you very much. And I'm glad we didn't have any trolls come on, which is great. Which basically shows that we have a good set of boundaries here. Yeah, I do want to mention that because it felt really good and nicely safe, if that's the right word, you know, to have you guys on. So thanks for all your contributions. We're going to finish it for today. It will go on to the Nouveau website, and we'll see you maybe next week.
Beautiful.
Yeah, great to collaborate. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao,
Good
ciao.
to see you.
Sounds good. Nice to meet everybody.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye, Jessie.
Cheers.
Bye, Martin.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Laura.
Yes.
Jessie.
Bye.
Mary. Bye, Jill. Okay, let me just
Bye.
wait.
Oh, bye, Jill.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.